Hi, Hi, Mrs. Marcy. Beautiful sunset there. I call this meeting to order at 2:02 p.m. I'm gonna call a roll. Please provide the city and the county you are in. Brenda Marcy. Oh, can't hear you. You're muted.
Saugatuck Township, Allegan County. I am here.
Kathy Meridian is excused. She's traveling today. Cindy Osman.
Here, Saugatuck City, Allegan County.
And Ken Truster, he's excused. He's on a boat. Jerry Donovan.
Here, Douglas, Allegan County.
Thank you. John Adams.
Here, Benville, Allegan County.
Richard Donovan. Donovan. Richard with us?
I don't see him, but I know he's going to join us. He might be just a little bit late.
Okay.
I just admitted him.
Oh, okay. Richard, are you with us for the record?
Looks like it.
Richard? Good. He's here. I see Richard is here.
I am here.
Okay. Douglas, Michigan, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And just for the record, do we have Craig Atwood with us today from the county? I don't see him. Okay. Joe Fry is here.
Yep.
Ryan is here and Rich is here. So,
I'm here.
all right. Thank you. Next, I'm going to call for an approval of the agenda. Are there any additions to today's agenda? If not, can I call for a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll move. This is John.
Okay, I'll second. And we have to vote. Brenda Marcy,
Yes.
Cindy Osman,
Yes.
Jerry Donovan,
Yes.
John Adams,
Yes.
Richard Donovan.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on to approval of the minutes. Do I have any changes to the minutes from August 7th? And if there are no changes, can I call for a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Richard.
Okay, I'll second. I'm going to take the roll call to approve the minutes. Brenda Marcy,
Yes.
Cindy Osman,
Yes.
Jerry Donovan,
Yes.
John Adams,
Yes.
Richard Donovan.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to public comments. At this time, we welcome any member of the public to comment, limited to today's agenda and agenda topics and in 3 minutes or under. Do we have any members of the public with us that would like to comment at this time? Okay, I don't see any, so let's jump into our meeting. Per Joe's suggestion, looks like we're going to start with the township report. And again, I think that was it's a very good document, and I really wanted to thank both Joe and Cindy for that heavy lifting. Richard and myself made some revisions, which I hope is agreeable. I mean, the document does tell the story of the committee. So I would imagine there'll be a few additions or different points of view. Not sure if anyone has anything else to add, but let's open up the floor for conversation.
Holly?
Yes.
I could not figure out, I tried on my phone and my Mac, and right now my iPad's dead, so I'm writing the minutes. I couldn't figure out, are they highlighted? Are they italicized? Are they in different color? The changes.
Oh, the changes.
Yes.
The changes are not in the packet. They were sent out to the committee after.
Right, I saw that, but I still can't, what am I missing?
So Richard's changes were in green. My changes were in red. Maybe it has to do with your word.
Okay, let me,
Did the changes not appear to you?
yes, they did not appear, and I'm trying, now, why was I thinking it was PDF? It's not PDF, it's a Word?
It was a Word document.
All right, I'll go back in and see.
Brenda, let me see if I can save my copy
Okay,
in a PDF, and I will shoot that over real quick so that you have it.
you do have a PDF.
I think I can make it a PDF, and I'll send that over here to
Well,
you.
okay, so okay, Friday, September 3rd is today. Padley sent, okay, that's just the packet.
It would have come from me, Brenda.
Okay,
And if you get it as a PDF, you wouldn't be able to make any changes.
right, so let's see.
I'll make sure that we'll make sure that you get a copy.
I'm looking in junk too because, you know. And you sent that today?
I sent it yesterday.
Oh, here it is. Okay, so let's see. Okay, it has proposed all the way across it, correct? No colors, no nothing.
Okay.
I've never had trouble with that.
Does anyone else see the changes? Everyone else got them? Okay. Brenda, you're just special.
So special. Yeah, I thought I was going nuts, really.
All right, let me.
But that's okay as long we're going to discuss the changes, correct?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
Joe, why don't you kick us off, though?
All right. So just to let you know, Brenda, I just saved the changes into PDF so you can see the color version of what
Okay.
was sent, so that you can at least follow along.
Are you going to put it on the screen?
I don't have it.
Right. Okay.
Capabilities, but you'll have it in your email here.
Okay.
So just to go over for the committee, so we're on the same page.
Oh, this is so different.
Can you see it now?
Pink and lime green is how they're coming out, but they're, yes, now I can, okay, go ahead anyway. Sorry, Joe.
Yes.
So bizarre.
So the main parts of the section I'm going to go over for you is on the first page. It just kind of introduces what was asked for the committee, a little bit of history, and it goes over the section 5, which is all the required items the committee is supposed to hit within a written report. And section 6 just states, a written report in an intergovernmental agreement is to be completed. If you go further on to like page 2, you'll see it just continues to go over some summary and review of our progress to date. And then in the modified one from Richard, you'll see he expanded, and Holly expanded a little bit more on that history, which is very nice. I didn't have all that. It then goes into the recommendations that is asked for in section 5 of the joint resolution. And it goes by each item and then our recommendation for that section. So the scope and nature of the project that was taken from what the Friends put out for the RFP, which really nicely wrote the scope and nature of what we're looking at, of making the existing sections. The second one is the Act 51 agent who will be leading that. And it just goes over that we have identified the city of Saugatuck will act as the Act 51 agent, as the county would prefer not to be the Act 51. And we will just have the city, as they have graciously so far recommended, that they would be fine with it. Just let the board accept it all. 5C is just the responsibilities for the grant application. We hired C2AE, and part of the contract is they'll be leading in the preparation of that grant application on behalf of us municipalities. And Richard clarified that MDOT will be responsible for the bidding and awarding of the contracts, which is good to hear. And for that, each municipality's manager will be responsible for the oversight of the trail within their jurisdiction, as we talked about. The indemnification insurance, C2E has that covered within their engineering. In that, as municipalities, we all have our own insurance for our facilities, so our insurance will cover and maintain the trail. Expenses and responsibilities. The Friends of Blue Star have agreed to provide the balance of the local match and the donations for the projects. And it just kind of goes over that in the long term for the maintenance and future operations, each municipality will be responsible for its section within its jurisdiction. And in that section, I do cite the Appendix A is the Inter-Governmental Agreement. It is, just so you know, a resolution for each municipality just accepting the report, and that the municipalities each maintain their own trail section, and just kind of agrees to some of the highlights within the report to the Act 51 and grant applicants, as the township will be, for my understanding previously, we will be applying on behalf of the other communities to the DNR, where the city of Saugatuck will be applying on our behalf for the TAP grant. So that's what that section and appendix goes over.
I'm a little confused on that part, Joe.
Okay.
I have a question about the middle of 5E. The Friends of the Blue Star agreed to provide the balance of the local match after the community portion, subject to agreement on the next phases of the project. Does that make sense? Because I don't know what the next phases of the project are. The next step would be the addendum to the report.
Yeah, I was just going to highlight each section, then we
Oh,
can,
okay, then we can go back. Okay.
because I do have some questions on some of the changes, not a whole lot, and we can get clarification too. So the Appendix B, just so everyone knows, is the city of the village of Douglas, the township of Saugatuck, and the township of Laketown have a memorandum of understanding for the maintenance, basically maintenance agreement, that goes into more detail on the standards that we work together on, and that we will work together on any maintenance projects that would benefit the whole trail as a system. I did talk to Laketown's manager. He believes that his board will be fine with adding the city of Saugatuck to that. So that's why that is in here as an addition. So each municipality would just, along with Laketown, add the city of Saugatuck into this memorandum. So that will be the second part. So that's all covered in 5E, the expenses, construction, maintenance, and future operations. Engineer record, we have already agreed to the first interlocal government agreement for engineering. So that makes C2AE as the engineer record. And then the additional recommendation is to continue meeting until the grants have been submitted and awarded. Once at that point, each municipality will then forward within its jurisdiction and its authority from there going onward. But the recommendation is to extend our deadline until that point. And then the supplemental report that we are recommending that we will have just clarifies the section connecting the city of Saugatuck and Douglas that crosses the river, in that we will be talking amongst ourselves about a match to the grant to receive additional points in the grant application process. And that will all be submitted to the communities before October 13th. That is the report in a nutshell in what the township had proposed last week. Now, any questions on that summary before we talk about the amendments that we made to the report?
Cindy, you had,
Muted.
Cindy, yes, you're muted. What were?
I'll let Joe take the lead on that. I think probably he has some of the same questions that I have.
Richard, I saw you were talking. Did you have, you're muted.
Muted.
Oh, by the way, the last appendix E, C is a support letter for the grants. You know, most grants ask for the municipalities to give a support letter, so there's a template there. You can write whatever one you want, expand it however municipality wise. And then appendix D, part of the section joint resolution asks for the route. So we'll just add what the engineers have come up with, and that will be what is submitted.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Joe, just a clarification. Appendix A is supposed to be the intergovernmental agreement that is called for by the joint resolution. Are you saying that instead of an intergovernmental agreement, you're proposing that there just be a joint resolution?
Yes, there would be two, appendix A and appendix B are acting as the intergovernmental agreement. So there won't be actually a contract. There would be the memorandum of understanding, as that is how we've been operating this trail system before. You know, all the three municipalities, excluding Saugatuck, have been operating in this fashion with a memorandum of understanding. That is why this joint resolution in appendix A, which is we all agree to accept the report and its recommendations, and the memorandum of understanding be signed to include the city of Saugatuck. Therefore, it will meet the requirement of the joint resolution. So we are not recommending, you know, a formal interlocal. It's just resolutions in the MOU.
Okay, have you consulted with your lawyer about that?
Not on for the interlocal. We're not going down an agreement pathway. It's just a resolution saying we're accepting these items. I didn't see that it would be necessary need to pay for our attorney to draft a resolution.
No, I agree, but I meant, have you talked to the lawyers about whether the three communities undertaking a project of this magnitude should do so without an intergovernmental agreement? And if I remember, Holly, of course, will know better, but the city council of Saugatuck, when they asked for an intergovernmental agreement and they approved the creation of this committee, there were at least some members of the council who indicated that, you know, they wanted to have an intergovernmental agreement because they wanted to know that the other two municipalities were committed to the project and on what terms. Now, maybe the resolution would satisfy them, I don't know, but we've been talking about an intergovernmental agreement all along, and now I'm hearing that we're not going to have one.
Well, our recommendation from the township is when we, as a committee, the committee can recommend, you know, we go this way or that way. What the township is proposing is there is no necessary, if we're not having a maintenance council or going down this one path, there's no need for an intergovernmental agreement, as we have already been operating under a memorandum of understanding. And the township and Douglas are super dedicated to this project. And, you know, on behalf of the township, I would be more than happy to go to the Saugatuck Council of the, you know, state. So, because we have joined this committee, we've also maintained our trail, and we're almost completed with our section. And I can't speak on Douglas's behalf, but they've completed their section. So we are dedicated to this project and just finishing the connecting pieces. So I think that would be sufficient, but I can't speak on, you know, the Council of Saugatuck's behalf.
I'm just trying to look at our resolution. And Cindy, maybe you would know better than I do, but didn't we have to have an intergovernmental resolution?
I think Holly, just off the top of my head, we have to have an agreement, but it didn't necessarily have to be an intergovernmental agreement. It just had to be a resolution. We had to agree to certain things, and this accomplishes that.
Okay.
Also, to add to it, the 3 municipalities have already agreed to an engineering interlocal government agreement. So in a way, we have met that requirement.
Yes.
And one of the things I wanted to get clarified is one of the sections that Richard put in, but we can get to that.
Okay.
Does anyone from Douglas have any questions? I'll make sure you guys have a chance to speak.
This is Jerry Donovan. At this point in time, I don't have any questions. I can't speak for Rich. The only thing I wanted to do, and maybe I'm a little early on it, is number 4 in the maintenance agreement. And sadly, I'm on a phone. I don't have it in front of me. But when the time comes, that's something I have a couple questions on.
Okay. Are you talking about under the memorandum of understanding 4?
Again, Joe, I don't have it in front of me. Basically, what I looked at it said, in principle, each municipality is responsible for its own section as far as the maintenance goes. But then there was a caveat saying if one of the jurisdictions can't provide maintenance, that the other jurisdictions would be compelled to cover their portion of the maintenance, including the use of equipment. So I'm not sure if that's on the memo of understanding or a separate line item on a maintenance agreement. And again, I'm on a dial-in, so I'm not able to look at it.
Okay. I'm glad you're here, even though you're just dialed in. Let's loop back to that after, because we are going to talk about maintenance.
Right. And like I say, I as far as the intergovernmental agreement and that, I don't have any questions or comments. Maybe Rich does.
Brian, Rich, if you want to weigh in, just weigh in. I know you're here, but he might be on a call or something. Brian?
Yeah, Holly, hi, and hi to the committee. Just real quick on the joint resolution, the verbiage for item 5 in that resolution says the study committee will be tasked with drafting an intergovernmental agreement, including but not limited to the provisions that address A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, H. So that's kind of the verbiage. So if we don't have an intergovernmental agreement that addresses what we're talking about. Anyways, I just wanted to clarify the language that it says, again, the intergovernmental agreement included but not limited to the provisions that address the A through H.
Well, I mean, honestly, I have to defer to the city managers and to Cindy because this is, I mean, I don't know, I just need to fulfill the requirements of the resolution that set up this joint study committee, and I am not versed enough to say that the memorandum of understanding will stand in for the intergovernmental.
Well, I think, Holly, that we do have an intergovernmental agreement for the engineering.
Mhm.
So we do have one. It's not like we just ignored that,
True.
but as far as the report goes, what we're reporting back is we do have an intergovernmental agreement, and we do have a report, and these are the recommendations in the report. So,
Okay. And in your read that we are fulfilling, because you and I have had this conversation from the very beginning. I mean, when you and I sat down, even, at the beginning of this committee, the genesis, we talked about this. So
yeah.
if the committee is comfortable and the experts are comfortable, that's fine with me. I mean, Brian, did you have something else to add?
Yeah, no, I mean, that seems fine. I think Richard's question is, are the municipalities going to be comfortable and our legal counsel going to be comfortable with going into a project of this magnitude without addressing in an expanded intergovernmental agreement that addresses the responsibilities for construction, maintenance, and future operations? I think the answer is yes, as long as everyone has a resolution that says the same thing and passes it in each municipality.
Are you good with that, Richard?
Well, you guys can, the three municipalities can agree to whatever they want. That's not my business. My only concern for the Friends is that we don't get to a city council meeting and somebody says, okay, where's the intergovernmental agreement? And, you can't point to an engineering agreement because that doesn't say we're going to build a trail, just as we're going to hire an engineer. So my only concern is that we not miss our grant application deadline because we haven't fulfilled the requirements of the resolution. But if the city managers are comfortable and feel that we have, and you can convince your board and council of that, then that's fine with me. Ryan, will you have this reviewed by your attorney before the resolution goes before the city council?
Yeah, some really high level stuff, right? I'm not going to ask them to go through these agreements, but just kind of tell them conceptually what's happening here and if they're comfortable with moving forward.
Okay.
All right. Well, if our attorneys bless it, then I'm okay with that. Okay. Anything else?
I do have some questions on some of the additions that were made, just for clarifications.
Yeah, go ahead.
So is it all right if we go through that? So on starting on page 4, the rest of everything before that, I don't have any questions on. It's under the 5B potential lead act agency for grant funding and oversight.
Yeah.
However, it is expected, it's the last sentence, however, it is expected that the city will require subsidiary agreements with the township and Douglas to fulfill some of the obligations of the grant. I was just kind of wondering, what are you guys thinking there? Just so I am aware.
Yeah, Joe, it's Richard. I wrote that the way, and again, I'm not an expert on the TAP grant process by any means, but what we've been told in the past is that there is one Act 51 agent for the grant application. And in this case, it would be the city. And the city, as Act 51 agent, is going to be required to enter into a contract with MDOT. And that contract is going to require a bunch of stuff. And some of it will relate to portions of this project which are not within the city of Saugatuck, i.e. they're within Douglas or the township. And so in order for the city to fulfill its obligations to MDOT under that contract, that, if you will, the master agreement for the TAP grant, I believe the city of Saugatuck will in turn want to turn around and say to the township and Douglas, okay, do you guys agree to do these things that MDOT is requiring with respect to your own jurisdictions? But if I'm wrong about that, by all means, correct me if somebody knows better.
I
Ryan?
think that answers my question.
I think it's a great response. We had a similar conversation when we thought that Allegan County Road Commission might take the lead as the Act 51, and we said that there'd be a bunch of subservient agreements. So it's very similar, except that the city of Saugatuck is taking the role of the road commission.
That's right, Ryan.
Okay, I just wanted to get that clarified. I don't see a problem with that. I did talk to Ryan about it, and Ryan sent an email out to you, Richard, and I think you answered the question. It's under 5E. The Friends have agreed to provide the balance of the local match at the community portion, subject to agreement on the next phases of the project. I think you were mentioning in the email that you were referring to the current interlocal with C2AE is just for engineering and not for construction. Did I understand you right? And when you refer to phases of the project, you're talking about agreements with C2AE, correct?
Well, yes and no, Joe. And I think this was or at least one of the questions Cindy had as well. Right now, the only agreements the Friends have are regarding what C2 called phase 1, which is just the engineering leading up to the grant applications, right? So right now, there's no agreements among anybody that go beyond that cover the actual dealings with MDOT during the grant review process, and then subsequently the bidding and the construction and all that. And those are actually the places with the bigger dollar amounts. And so all I meant to indicate here is that so far the Friends have agreed to provide the local match, but it's subject to our agreements going forward as to how we're going to handle those next phases. And as I said in my email, assuming that the same terms are going to apply with those other phases among the 3 municipalities and the Friends, then there would be no problem. But if for some reason, if somebody wanted to change the terms and say, the Friends can't participate in any meetings, well, then we have a problem. But if we're just proceeding in the same way we have been, then I don't anticipate that our board would have any problem with that.
So are you anticipating an additional agreement with the municipalities for the grant process for the construction phase?
Yeah, I believe so, because I think the first agreement, I haven't looked at it in a while, but I think it only applied to paying the engineering fees on phase 1.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming you're going to want us to agree to commit to pay the local match on the rest of it.
Most times when I've worked on grant projects and there's a Friends group or a different nonprofit, in my experience, we don't have agreements about monies being donated. So I just wanted to get that cleared up. If do we have to get an additional agreement written up? And I just would like that a little bit more spelled out if everyone's fine with that.
Yeah, if you'd rather not have a written agreement from us promising to pay the money, that's good for us.
Holly, if I could,
Yes, please.
yeah, speaking on behalf of the city, we absolutely are gonna want a written agreement that the Friends are gonna fork over their cash when the time comes for the capital cost.
Yes. John, did you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, we're trying to meet the requirements of the resolution. We also have to meet the requirements of the grants. And that's gonna require a commitment on paying the local match, which I assume would be in kind of this next iteration once we have the final numbers. So I think there's also a question of what's going to be required from the grants. And as we think about these resolutions, I think we should also make sure that we're, touching base with Emily and that, everything that's needed from the grant standpoint is provided here, which presumably would be the funding sources, which is consistent with the agreements that we've already seen in terms of examples. But yeah, I would anticipate we'd be making a commitment, but we're not, we haven't got that number yet.
All right. Joe,
That
does that
satisfies me.
question?
Yeah, I'm fine with having an agreement, and if the other cities are too. So that's fine. I just had a question, like, I didn't want it to be like, well, there's a friend backing out on us, or I was just kind of like, oh, we all want this trail done. I'm kind of confused now, so that answered my question. I think the next question I had was the additional recommendation of extending the committee. The last sentence says, in that the communities consider a mechanism for ongoing cooperation as to the supervision of this trail. In my interpretation, the MOU in the resolution will suffice to that. So I didn't know if you were looking for a more detailed agreement when you added that section in.
Yeah, let me find it. Where is it again?
It's page 6. It's under additional recommendation.
Just above supplemental report and recommendation items.
Oh, yeah, got it. Okay, got it. I mean, I guess I was just trying to be a little more formal instead of just saying, let our committee continue to meet. Allow the committee or some body to be in place and then consider going forward, how is it going to work? I mean, at some point, our committee presumably is going to cease to exist. But the trail will be there and the 3 communities are there, and there ought to be something in place to, to work together on it, whether it's just a tri-community committee or something else. That's all. I was trying to just indicate that, going forward, there needs to be something, but obviously you can change the wording of that.
Because from my understanding from, talking to the other managers and then, listening to the committee, and I've even talked to Lake Town, is having another, standing tri-community or bike trail committee is not the direction that we were going. That's why we've agreed to the independent ness of the MOU and interlocal resolution. So my recommendation is we just strike that. I feel like it's been addressed in other sections for how we will cooperate with each other. Essentially, we've addressed the state.
You're referring to the maintenance agreement?
Yep. Everyone's quiet.
Well, I'm just trying to think this through because, this committee does, it's not really designed according to the resolution to go on and on. I mean, we had specific tasks to carry out. But to Richard's point, it is a good idea that we have some sort of something, whether it falls into like a tri-community parks committee or some, you know, there should be something, even if it's somebody that touches base from TRICOM once a year. I don't know if it's going to necessarily be this committee in this iteration. So I'm sort of weighing those two thoughts.
Yeah, and Holly, that doesn't have to be decided now. I mean, this committee might last until the trail is built. I don't know, but once the trail is built, I would think there ought to be some kind of, way of a little more formal way of coordinating things, but beyond just maintenance. But that doesn't have to be decided now as part of this report.
Okay, I think that we should get through the items that we need to get through, and we should bookmark that. And that's definitely something we can come back to when we get on the other end of our punch list for MDOT. But it's a good point, and it's something that we can talk about as representatives when we go back to our boards. And that's something that we can sort of think about as we imagine tri-community relationships and the trail going forward. So.
Cindy? All right, Holly?
Yep.
Do we really have time though? What are you talking about? Like when we finish this discussion, we go back to it? I mean,
no.
Yeah.
I mean, when this committee comes to an end, when we get
okay.
when we get our punch
Yes.
list done for MDOT, we've picked a route, we've done all of the things on our bullet list, we can talk about what do we need to do. We can make a recommendation for a committee going forward. We talked about doing a subcommittee that went through the past the grant application. We could talk about what is the next step for this committee. My point is we don't have to have this conversation now. It's good that people are weighing in and thinking about it, but I don't think I want to get stuck on it right this minute.
We could just use the last sentence. I mean, I kind of understand from the friend's point of view, what's their future involvement in terms of, just keeping up with what's going on and the mechanism for ongoing cooperation and supervision of, I like that. I don't know. So if you say that the committee and that the committees consider, I mean, that's not locking us into anything, correct?
True.
I mean, I know we have an end date, and I had to take a big breath. But it could be wordsmith just a little, so it's not a complete commitment, and yet I don't think we want to lose it completely.
Okay.
How does everyone else feel? Cindy?
Yeah, I kind of thought that after we've submitted our grants, that until such a time that they're awarded, that we would have maybe a steering committee to keep on top of where things are. But our job as our committee making recommendations is kind of ended at that point. That's my understanding.
Mm-hmm. But this just allows for some future something.
Yeah. Yes, I think both things can be true. So I agree with you, Brenda. Let's just wordsmith this so that we leave the possibility open, whether it's a steering committee. We are pretty much the first committee that has been tri-community that has undertaken such a giant thing. So, I mean, we have invented the wheel basically of how to do this, and we are still in the process of doing that.
Right.
So.
Right. That's great. Okay.
That was the last of my questions. The rest of it is just, typing thing that we can talk later, and I can make the, changes because I have the copy.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you for graciously accepting some of our edits, Joe.
No problem. I looked at it, I'm like, oh, that's a lot of changes. And then I was like, as I started reading, I'm like, oh, that's nice. I was wondering a little bit more about that detail, so it's good. So
Thank you. Ryan?
Yeah, just to clarify the correction that's going to be made so that when you make a motion, you can include that little portion. So you're going to change some words to soften it. Joe, can you help out with?
So the recommendation motion, if everyone is fine with what is being proposed, let me pull up the agenda packet. Would be, I think I gave a motion to approve the first of two reports and recommendations to three governing bodies as amendments were presented. And we can clarify those little grammatical details. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think for everyone's benefit, just a little clarification on what was just discussed. So we're wordsmithing the ongoing responsibilities for the Blue Star Trail Group as it relates to operations and maintenance, and giving a recommendation that they be involved for a committee or something else to be formed at a later date. That was kind of what I took away from that convo.
Yeah, so most of the changes that Holly and Richard made would be accepted, and we would still keep that little sentence in that the communities consider a mechanism. We just leave that as is, and we'd be done.
Great. Okay, thank you.
You know, there's just, you know, spelling out township and some little typo things, but we'll get that all taken care of.
Great, thanks.
Okay, so John, did you have something to say?
I just wanted to reiterate, and you know, time is going fast here, and this is a very good report that clearly, you know, meets the requirements, I think, of the grants in terms of the maintenance. This is our last chance before the grants go in with the township to get approvals, and you know, to make sure that those approvals are vetted versus the grant requirements. I think, you know, Emily's provided that list, but just to double check that there's nothing else. And we've got an expert here, I think, to tell us that we should reach out to just to verify, okay, we're ready to go. You know, does this include what we need at this point for these grants? And just because, you know, it's our last chance, I think we should use the expertise to verify that, my opinion.
So in that spirit, Joe, do you have any objection when you finish the report, if you could send it to myself and Emily?
Yep. I don't mind doing that. That way you guys have it for your boards to approve as well.
Okay.
And discuss, because we will be meeting next week and approving it. And then in the supplemental, because I remember Emily talking about that the committee still needs to determine, are we going to go with the 50% or the 40% in the match for the Friends? So that we can get that in the supplemental report later, but that doesn't hinder us from what we're doing today.
Okay, great. Thank you. And one thing I wanted to, I think we need to talk about if we agree on this report as a committee, but do we need to go back because we changed the order? Do we need to go back and discuss maintenance cost and operations and maintenance first? Ryan?
You're talking about just kind of as a logistical meeting item?
Yep.
No, you just got done with the discussion. I think you're fine to take action on it now.
Okay, because I'm happy with this report. I bless it. Does anybody else have any anything else to add? I think it was a lot of work, and I'm happy with the discussion, and I think we can move on. Everybody good with that? Okay.
Well,
Great.
just as a formality, Joe, do you want to hit them with that recommended motion one more time, and then they can take a vote?
So the motion would be, let me get to it again, would be what I wrote in the packet. And then I would just put as presented with amendments as discussed. Does that make sense? So I just add amendments as discussed at the end.
So the amendments as discussed would be to accept all the red line and wordsmith the additional recommendations.
That's my understanding.
Well,
I would like to make that motion, please.
I'll second.
Cindy, I hate to do this to you, but do you want to give it to me again?
To accept the report as submitted with amendments red line and to wordsmith the additional recommendation on the committee follow up to consider a mechanism for ongoing cooperation and supervision of the trail section.
Okay, the report as submitted with amendments redlined. And then you just want to refer to that one sentence?
Yeah, that one section to the communities consider a mechanism for ongoing cooperation as to and supervision of this trail section.
Okay. Okay, who else? Okay, so you motioned to approve, who seconded?
Me.
Okay. Okay,
Okay,
vote.
take a vote. Okay. Brenda Marcy,
Yes.
Cindy Osmond,
Yes.
Jerry Donovan. It's out there somewhere. John Adams,
Yes,
Richard Donovan,
I believe Richard has lost internet connection, so he's not with us at the moment.
I'm not sure what that does to our vote.
Yeah, we may not have a quorum. I don't know if you can count.
I think he's trying to get back on, I'm sure, if you want to come back to it, but
All right, let's come back and we'll do the vote again.
You're with four committee members
Yeah, is
out of
that,
what, 7?
us are there voting? Actually, you're right, we do have a quorum.
You're
Oh,
with,
okay.
4 of us. There's 7 voting members, so 4 is enough.
Okay.
All right. All right, let's go back to talk about maintenance costs associated with trail design, unless, yeah, let's start there.
and Holly, I'm happy to just jump right in
Yep,
because
go
I
ahead.
think I requested to just have this item included in the packet again. You all discussed this at your last meeting, and I guess I just want to put a fine point on a few items, at least from the city's perspective. Is yes, we recognize there's annual maintenance costs involved with maintaining a trail system, which this calculator is a pretty awesome tool to help get to estimated costs for annual maintenance. And yes, we understand that the maintenance costs will change with level of service, plowing versus not plowing during the winter. And then also would change with the design that's selected. We recognize that, but frankly, at least I see the cost as being pretty nominal as far as annual maintenance goes. And that's kind of one bucket. There's another bucket, which is long-term replacement, right? We keep hearing about that. And I guess if folks are going to ask what's the replacement cost going to be, I don't think those numbers have have been calculated yet, at least from my understanding. But it's no different than any other infrastructure asset that the city has. You know, it's got an expected lifespan, probably 15, 20 years. And it'd be incumbent upon our city to budget for that appropriately, just like we do for roads or any other piece of infrastructure that we have. So I just wanted to have you include it in the agenda packet to just say, yeah, we're aware of these costs, the annual maintenance costs. We have a good estimate on. Also, there's other documentation that you all may have seen. I've shared with Holly. It's like there's a really good rails to trails cost estimator that's out there. They surveyed a lot of different asphalt trail systems and have a really good idea of what the costs are, and they put like a per mile average cost. So that stuff exists. So anyways, just a recognition that there's costs involved, both annual maintenance and long term. And yes, the design will, whatever design selected will have an effect on that, but it's that's well understood.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else weigh in? I will send out that rails to trails study. I think that's kind of a really important national study that sort of shows that maintenance costs are frequently overstated. And I think I went back and forth on whether to send that to everyone because we have a very good calculator that's based on some real world costs. And I didn't want to spend a whole bunch of time, delving into it if, on Friday before the holiday, but I'll make sure everybody has that. And yes, I do know that the holiday is this weekend. Thank you.
Holly, this is Jerry. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Okay. I had to jump off for a second, and I'm not sure if this was covered or addressed, but is this the part where I ask about that line item number 4 in the maintenance agreement?
We are just talking about maintenance costs, and we're about to talk about operations and maintenance agreement. So I don't know. Why don't you just?
I can wait. I'll wait.
Does anybody else have anything to add about maintenance costs? I mean, I thought the calculator was pretty helpful, so I think we're all, and the township obviously has some experience with trail costs at this point. Joe, did you have something to add before we get into what Jerry wants to talk about?
I was gonna say, is Jerry talking about the memorandum or what Ryan was talking about? Just for clarification.
I think Jerry is talking about the maintenance agreement, but
Okay, I thought
if
so.
I understand what he's saying.
Yes, that would be it.
So we're just talking about general maintenance, and if there's no issues here, let's just go ahead and move into maintenance agreement. Is that fine? Okay. Go ahead, Jerry.
Okay. On line or item number 4, whichever you want to call it, it basically starts out and says each municipality is responsible for their own maintenance and upkeep of their section of the trail. And then there's another line that says, should one of the municipalities not be able to do their maintenance, that the other municipality should join in and help them, including the use of equipment. And I'm trying to get a feel for what they would be talking about on that.
Okay, is that Richard's? Richard, is that part of your agreement, or is that part of the existing township, Lake Town and Douglas agreement? Richard, you're muted.
Well, Holly, to answer, what I saw was that line was not in the memo of understanding between Lake Town, Saugatuck Township, and Douglas. I didn't see that in there.
Okay.
And that was from 2018.
Okay.
So it appears as though this is a new clause or disclaimer, or whatever the case may be.
So Jerry, the committee approved to add the city of Saugatuck to our existing memorandum of understanding. So nothing's
Right.
changing from then. So I think you might be referring to a different MOU that we didn't approve.
Well,
Richard,
this is something that just came out as new information, Joe.
Okay.
So no, it's not a part of any existing memo of understanding that I saw.
Richard, is what Jerry talking about in your version of maintenance?
I did not recall that, but I'm trying to find it on my laptop.
Jerry, we got like 5 different maintenance agreements in our packet. Do you know which one you're referring to?
Ryan, I'm on the phone right now
Oh,
because I
shoot.
had to
Okay.
pull over and dial in. Here's what I know. It's just something we can go back and take a look at. I know it's number 4. And it's part of a maintenance agreement. So I don't know which one from where. At any rate, that line's in there, and we can circle back. And I don't like to use that term, but it seems to be out there now.
Jump
We
in.
can come back. We can come back to this, or if anybody found it, we can discuss it.
So basically what I've got is I've got Richard took a stab at this. Okay.
Okay.
So his number 4 is the parties agree to collaborate on maintenance of the trail sections within their respective jurisdictions whenever reasonably possible. This shall include the sharing of equipment as well as the joint preparation of formal requests for proposals and contracts with contractors to perform maintenance services. So I don't think that's what you're talking about, though.
No, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, it is exactly what you're talking about. Okay,
It is.
okay.
And I'm just trying to get clarification on that, because the way I read it, and I'm probably mistaken, wouldn't be the first time, but it seemed as though, let's say, for instance, Saugatuck Township, for whatever reason, wasn't able to provide maintenance on their section, that it would be then up to the other 2 municipalities to go out and assist them in maintenance of theirs, including the use of equipment. Is that an accurate interpretation of that?
Holly, I'd be happy to jump in here.
Yeah, Ryan, go ahead.
I don't think it is an accurate interpretation. I think what the paragraph is referring to is that whenever there's a potential for collaboration on service, we should take it. Doesn't mean that a jurisdiction, for example, would be if we, and I think it says this somewhere else, but if we go out for proposals for tree pruning or something, that we could all join in on that same proposal. Or another example would be if the city of Saugatuck has a snowplow, right? And so if the township needed services for plowing their trail, we could provide that if the city has time. This is and charge back, but this is no requirement for any municipality to take over the maintenance of another jurisdiction's trail.
Okay, thank you.
Joe, did you want to weigh in?
Yes, and just to make sure we're all on the same page, the memorandum that Richard and that we're talking about was one that was a proposal, but the committee just approved a different one, which is just the one that we currently have. So Jerry, there should not be any, nothing scary for Douglas, because we are already in agreement with each other. We're just accepting Saugatuck into the agreement. That's
Okay.
what's being proposed to the city of Douglas.
Okay.
Okay,
Is that true, Holly? Has
so
that,
I guess what Joe is saying is that by accepting the report, then we have already accepted the MOU that just adds Saugatuck to an existing township, Lake Town and Douglas agreement. Is that, Cindy? Help me out here. You're muted. Muted.
I'm sorry. What I understand is the draft that Richard made with that paragraph in it did not get incorporated into this report.
So, so are you saying the ship has sailed, that we've already, by talking about the report first and passing it, that we've already decided on the MOU for maintenance?
No, what I'm talking about is the draft that Richard prepared to say, here's an idea of what you could do for your maintenance agreement.
Uh-huh.
It was not accepted or incorporated into the report, so it's not part of what we asked for. And I think that's on the top of page 9. What actually was incorporated was they'll be maintained by their respective limits. Saugatuck will be the agent. Oh, it's not the right one. But it just listed that same kinds of things that we would cooperate where we could and take advantages of any economies of scale when we bid out projects. I don't
Okay,
know.
but Holly, if I could, please.
Brian, yes.
Yeah, but we're still looking for the committee to take action on some form of maintenance agreement. So, we're talking about two separate things. You have Joe's report, which is excellent and beautiful.
Here it is.
But that's just a report. That's not an agreement. That's just a report back to your board. And then we're looking to take action on the agreement for maintenance, which is a grant requirement. And so now I'm going to transition to a question for Richard. You drafted a similar maintenance agreement. What substantial changes were in your maintenance agreement that you presented, Richard, versus the one that already exists that the Douglas Township and, City of Douglas, the Saugatuck Township and Laketown Township already entered into?
Yeah, I guess the initial agreement, that the memo of understanding, was clearly not drafted by a lawyer, and it has, to my mind, it had a lot of surplus language, and it's not real clear, but the spirit is very similar. So in mine, I just tried to be a little more specific about what the parties were going to do. For example, that the heads of DPW would meet once a year at least to actually sit down and talk about maintenance of the trail and what they could do about that. And I just think it presents more clearly what the parties actually agree on. Whereas the memo of understanding is what I guess I'd call a little more aspirational, like, oh, let's cooperate. But it's to a large degree, it's just objective. I think the intent is the same.
Thank you.
Joe, did you have something to say?
I was just going to state that the township's intention with this report is, with the appendix B with the memorandum of understanding, is one option for an agreement for maintenance, and Richard's was a second under agreement. But as the committee has accepted the report, it also accepts the two appendixes that are going before each board for maintenance and accepting of the report. Does that make sense?
So that's on page 11?
Yeah.
So are you saying that the action the committee took previously on the report already binds them to a maintenance agreement? Or are you saying that the maintenance agreement is going in as a part of Appendix B or whatever?
Yes.
And that the committee still needs to vote on that?
No, the whole report includes a maintenance memorandum of understanding that will act as the maintenance agreement. So there isn't an agreement for interlocal. There's just an MOU, which we have used before for grant funding for Laketown in this section historically. So there won't be an additional maintenance agreement. There's just the MOU.
So that's the township's position, is that they would recommend that the city join the existing MOU.
Yes,
Got it.
that's what we proposed and what was asked to be accepted, which
And you're
was,
not willing to entertain Richard's newly drafted, cleaner, whatever he just said, version.
well, our understanding, what our proposal was, is for the four of us, as we all have a Blue Star Trail, which includes Lake Town, is just to add Saugatuck, as it would be the easiest one to move forward. And then we don't have to, go back to a table and review anything. I haven't had time this week to review Richard's review, and our proposal is we want to move this along as easy as pie.
Okay, I
That's what
I understood. Thank you for the clarification. And then I think this is, this is again needed for the grant, but I think it can be modified as we go forward, talking about longer term maintenance and involvement of the Friends of the Blue Star.
Yeah, we can always amend agreements, but this is, just to keep moving,
I hear you.
How we might want to change up how we do, whatever it is that we do with each other, because boards change and attitudes change. But, our opinion is that we don't want to put anything binding, if we want to change it down the later. So that's all.
Brenda?
Yeah, I'm just a little confused. We're only talking about this document in front of us, correct? The 16 pages?
The report?
Yes, okay. Pardon me?
The report or?
Yes.
Yeah,
The
which document?
The report that includes the appendices, the 16 page. Here's why I'm asking. Ryan just mentioned that we're not including Richard's changes, but it looks to me we're including on this document everything except the one that we amended. So am I missing something here? Were we talking about this document or a different document?
Cindy?
There were two
Yeah.
documents, Brenda, there were two documents, and one was the report that Joe submitted, and it's 16 or 17 pages. And
Correct?
on the page 11 starts the memorandum of understanding, and that's
Yes.
what is in the report. So that is something
Yeah.
that we did act on. And if
Yeah.
you look on in the middle of page 13,
Mm-hmm.
that is the existing agreement between Laketown Township, Saugatuck Township,
Right.
and the city of Douglas. And there were no changes to that, what I understand, talking to Joe. It's the exact same report. So it's the exact same language
Right.
that's in there. So Richard's amendments were a separate document, and they were not incorporated into the report.
Oh, okay. All right. So we're not talking about the earlier changes in the first part. Okay. Yeah, I don't see any changes on any of the rest of the documents. So,
Okay.
okay.
Well, I guess honestly, the easiest and the path of least resistance is to go ahead and add Saugatuck to the agreement that we have. I'm a little disappointed that we perhaps got into the report before we got into this discussion because it seems like it's new. But just in the interest of time, I guess that's okay. Anything else?
Yeah, just a quick question for clarification, because now I'm confused too. So, page 37 of the packet. Or let's start on page 36 of the packet. Appendix B, Memorandum of Understanding. Blank, right? Proposed.
I don't know what you're looking at. Page 36 of the packet
The packet, the PDF page. 9 of 15 of the report.
of the report or the packet?
It's
I'll
the
bring-
it's memorandum of understanding, Appendix B. It's in your report, Township,
Yep.
report, correct?
That is the report that is the one that adds Saugatuck City to the existing memorandum of understanding and does not include anything that says if this township fails to take care of their trail, then it's Douglas and Saugatuck have to jump in and take care of it.
Okay, so the next page, page 10 of 15 of the report.
So Ryan, it's
Is,
not.
is just for clarification, sorry, Joe, just slow in finishing that thought. Page 10 of 15 of the report is looks like the revised.
No, so what is on 10 of page 10 and 15, and it goes through 12, is what is currently agreed to among the three municipalities. The path of least resistance and not having to reopen a can is just to add the city of Saugatuck to that agreement. It's
Okay.
not, you're not recommending, recreating the wheel with a new one. We can later if we so choose, but this is just simply adding you guys to the current memorandum of understanding.
Yeah, so this is where I get confused because looks like the memorandum of understanding, which is on page 10 of 15 of your report, looks to be like the agreement that Richard sent.
No, they're different documents. Richard added, so Richard's in the packet. Richard section starts. When I read this is why I wanted to talk about the report first, is because it was so confusing. I'm like, we're going to get confused here. So in the packet, and I'm sorry, this is why I wanted, you will see page 7 of the packet of the PDF document. It says RD draft. That's Richard's copy. A lot of it says the same thing, but he added different wording to things, which, I haven't had time to review, and Lake Town hasn't, because if we want to have really good spirit of cooperation, we want Lake Town in it, as they are our neighbor and on the township's behalf. They are also part of this trail and not in our discussion. And when we talk to Lake Town, they'd be fine with adding you guys to it. That's why we are just adding you guys to what is existing, which the existing document is page 11 of the PDF. That did not change, and that is what is in the report. The only thing that changed is it says Saugatuck Township and Lake Town Township in the city of Douglas and the city of Saugatuck. So
I'm just kind of looking out for you, Joe, because it would appear, unless I'm crazy and looking at like random documents, like it appears in your report after Appendix B, page 9 of 15, 36 of the packet, right?
yeah, yep.
It says, it says Appendix B, and then page 10 looks like it's the Blue Star Trail. It almost looks like the appendix that you've included in your report is the one that Richard sent.
No, I don't think so, Ryan.
What am I even looking at then? Then don't pay attention to me, and everything is okay.
Because I took what agreement we had and I put it in the PDF and made it a Word document and just added you guys. So
Oh,
I took,
okay, great. Sorry, thanks. I got really confused there. Thanks for
Okay.
clarification.
sorry, everything looks a lot of the same. So that's why I'm like, let's just talk about the report. And if we want to talk about a different agreement, we can.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
All right. Not trying to pull one over anyone. So just want you all
Got
to be comfortable.
Joe, just to confirm, because you're adding Saugatuck, you're contemplating that this is a new agreement. In other words, all 4 parties now have to sign this new document to make it effective, right?
Yes. So when I talked to the Lake Town manager, he was fine with that. He was like, yep, we don't have any problems because we all are maintaining what we have currently. It's not changing any agreement. So in the quickest reason, we have two things. The MOU will take a little bit longer as it would have to go to Lake Town and for them to approve, but we don't see any issues with that. And if we do want a different one later, we can then have a longer discussion about it. But because the grant deadline is so close, this is the easiest one to get passed by everyone. Just simply add you guys to what we're doing already.
Brenda, did you want to weigh in?
Pardon me?
You had your hand up. Did you want to weigh in?
Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry.
No
Forgot to
problem.
take it down.
Ryan?
Oh, just an observation. I mean, I feel like the process was a little backwards today. That we should have talked about the maintenance agreement if it was being included in the report. I don't think anyone fully understood that. Although I think we would have ended up at the same spot. So
I would agree. It's a little surprising.
I mean, that said, again, I think you end up at the same spot, but you certainly have the option to rescind your motion and change your, have the discussion again. But I don't think that gets anywhere.
Okay. All right. I think, is there anything else? Does anyone else want to add anything? Have we covered our agenda items for today?
Well, I guess I'd ask, I thought the main purpose of today was to make sure that the township is prepared at its meeting next week to do what has to be done for the grant application, as Emily has laid out. So I guess I'd ask the township members, do they feel like we've accomplished that and you're all set to pass a resolution next week that identifies the items Emily has proposed?
Yep.
I think that's correct, Richard. We're prepared to present it to our board with a recommendation to approve it, but we can't speak for the other members that will be voting.
Sure.
Of course, yep. Thank you.
And we'll also get a copy of that report to Emily on Monday, just to make sure that we checks and balances.
And anything else to just type in that anything other items for the grant that we need to address will be in that supplemental report. So if there's anything that Emily feels that we need to do, well, we'll just kind of go for it. And like all the main concerns that we have are answered. And then if there's anything else that the township board needs to approve in October, that night of the grant deadline, we'll just approve it and everything will be hunky-dory. It's just the bigger stuff that we needed to get done first.
Yes. Thank you. Ryan? You had your hand up. No? Okay. You're just saying hi to everyone. Okay. All right.
Somehow Ryan and I are on the same wavelength today. Anyway.
Come on.
It's like the people with the left turn signal on that just leave it on.
Yeah.
I'm totally that person too.
Okay, so I'm going to move on then to review next steps. I'm going to be talking to Larry and Emily first thing next week. I also collected the last of our community feedback from the library, which was even more positive than the open house, I might add. And obviously, route design is the big stake on our plate next week. So plan on a meeting Friday to choose routes. Brian, your hand is up.
This time on purpose. So the committee's aware of the council action that's slated for their next meeting, which is not this Monday, but next Monday, is to be the lead agent for the Act 51, talk about the trust fund grant as well, matching contributions on the agenda, and the maintenance agreement that y'all just recommended.
Richard Donovan?
Holly, just curious, how many people did submit forms at the library?
I can't recall the number. I just scanned everything. It was not as many as I thought there would be. But I just scanned everything and handed it over to Emily because I don't want to be seen as counting them and processing them. And
Mhm.
I may have read them, I may have peeked, but I'll leave it up to Emily to follow up.
Understood.
But they were very positive. They were very complimentary and very positive in tone. So, Brian, would you turn left already? Okay. Anything else that we want to talk about, or anybody else wants to say? All right. If not, I'm going to move on to general public comments. I don't know that we have any members of the general public in this house. Non-motorized trail at this time. Just limit your comments to 3 minutes. Anyone like to turn left, raise a hand, anything? Nothing? Okay. And do we have any committee member closing comments at this time? No, I just want to thank everybody. This is the complicated stuff, and I appreciate everyone's work on this. And if there's nothing else, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Okay.
Everybody turns left at once for that. I'll give it to Brenda.
I'll
And
second, John.
seconds. Okay. I'll take a roll to adjourn. Brenda Marcy,
Yes.
Cindy Osmond,
Yes.
Jerry Donovan,
Yes.
John Adams,
Yes.
and Richard Donovan.
Yes, please.
Great weekend.
2:29.
We'll see you all next week. There'll be lots of emails in your inbox this week. So enjoy. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.